Hmm. Okay.
Yeah, recording in progress. Uh,
As they say. Yeah. Two blast blasters, presumably trying
yeah,
to do it impromptu. See how far this goes. But yeah. Okay. Yeah. I guess I don't know if you wanted to start with like you mentioned you had some notes for things you wanted to talk about or what?
yeah. Well, I figure. Um, sorry if things are going weird. My earbuds disconnected for whatever
Okay.
reason. But yeah. Well, I figured. Well, I figure I do have some sort of strange
Mm-hmm.
ideas maybe about types because I've been trying to
Yeah.
kind of
Hmm.
comprehend them in what I think of as like sort of a
Hmm.
phenomenological manner, like how
Okay.
like why do the types have like their own kind of being? Um,
Hmm.
would maybe be a way of putting the question. But I find myself comprehending them in
Yeah.
these sorts of ways. Um, and I found turning to Jung completely illuminating. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
It's kind of I
any
feel like the Jungian stuff. It's like once you've similar to OP in a sense, but Jung in particular, it's like once you learn the whatever it's the functions or the archetypes or whatever, you kind of can't unsee them. At least for me, in
yeah, yeah,
the rest of my life,
yeah,
there must be some resonance to it.
uh, yeah, I think because I forgot about this stuff for a long time because I
Mm.
got typed maybe 3 or 4 years ago. But
Wow.
I found that in this weird sort of unconscious way, it might have been part of the framework in which I'm thinking. So I
Hmm.
virtually had no choice but to return. And my way of
Hmm.
returning was, well, I'll read Jung. Uh,
Yeah.
I've always liked reading Jung, and his way of approaching the functions I like because it still kind of has the dialectical mystery to it. Uh,
Okay. Hmm.
so it's not quite fleshed out. It's still very speculative, and I
Hmm.
personally maybe it's a extroverted intuition thing, perhaps, but I find it
Yeah.
really
Hmm.
stimulating. Uh,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Well, I guess that's sort of the polar opposite of that would be the way that they do it with OP, which is almost trying as hard as it can to get rid of all of that mystery
yeah,
and whatever you want to call it, scientificize it, and like how can we define these in the most concrete terms?
yeah,
Which I
right.
would say like that. That's what I like about it. Like I don't know if this is, assuming my typing is correct, I don't know of myself is correct, I don't know, but like that's I guess I wonder if that's a TIFI thing of like I don't want mystery necessarily. Like I want things to be as
Right.
defined as I can make them. So yeah,
Yeah,
even though Jung I just had TIs presumably, but
yeah. I mean, I'll certainly agree that I
mhm.
think it is
Yeah.
well because
Hmm.
it's useful to have something that works as a language
Yeah.
that's sort of
Yeah.
that's clarified. I think um, because we fundamentally we need a way of speaking about things, although it's still very difficult to me because uh, what I'm really I think maybe stubborn about wanting to know what it is, just fundamentally in relation to what as like what the functions are as things that occur in the world. Uh,
Hmm.
it's like no matter the use that you apply to understanding them, it's like I think that question is still there, and it's like
Hmm.
whatever is to be said about types, I think comes from whatever is in that particular question. Uh, but anyway, I found myself
Yeah.
having all these sorts of curiosities, um,
Hmm.
and perhaps it can be applied to any of the functions. But I found
Hmm.
myself thinking about the introverted whatever you want to call them, introverted
Introverted the
decider.
deciders or
Uh,
judgers. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
I would like to kind of be open
Yeah.
to both languages, but
Yeah.
nonetheless, like just kind of stumbling
Hmm.
upon uh, what makes these functions, identity functions, for example, um,
Hmm.
and in what way, how, why, uh, say maybe if there's like a causal factor to this, that
Hmm.
they become either feeling or thinking functions. Uh,
Hmm.
and I was sort of meditating on this myself because I needed to figure out uh,
Yeah.
precisely from my experience where I'm coming from, because it seems like I do a lot of this thinking thing, but when it comes to where, like say, where I
Yeah.
decide I want to work, it's like, well, I figure out what's my vibe, because I know my vibe
Hmm.
probably won't, fit in, anywhere else.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
I had this restaurant job I really enjoyed, and but there
Hmm.
was something aesthetic about that I was really
Well, yeah.
almost like truthfully appealing to me. Uh, it's
Hmm.
like it's a kind
Well,
of,
yeah.
I think, and I mean I would
Hmm.
like to know, because you type as
Hmm.
introverted thinking type, and I would like to know
Yeah.
how that works for
Hmm.
you.
Yeah, as far as identity, yeah, I mean, when I first like was learning about OP, I think, and they said, like the those two functions are identity functions. At first, it sort of didn't make a ton of sense to me because like the I guess like the way I think about it is I didn't think of my TIs specifically being like about identity, more so about how, just how I make decisions
Right.
and try to figure out what's true and not true. And like I think unlike FI, from what I understand about FI, it's you're it's often not necessarily after some kind of universal, but about what is particular or authentic to yourself. Whereas for
Yeah.
TI, at least consciously, whether it's lying to me or not, is at least what I think I'm doing with it is trying to find what is objectively true. Like
Right.
for example, but what I do think is true about both of those functions, as I've noticed, is if you compare the introverted to the extroverted
Right.
deciders, is that the extroverted ones, TE and FE, always seem to be trying to pull people together and almost kind of obscure and get rid of the differences between people. Whereas I think
Yeah.
both TI and FI, they're identifying functions and that they're trying to separate you from others in some way. And like one example I thought of very frequently for myself was like when I was in school, I would almost like the teacher asked a question. I almost instinctively felt a need that my answer had to be different from what everyone else was saying. So if somebody raised their hand and gave an answer that I would have said, I was like, that would annoy me because well, I can't say that now. I have to say a different one. And so
Right.
I guess I do probably see that in the
Yeah.
TI of that of like,
It was easy for me because
yes,
I
I
would
do
I
I
would
do want to
just
find a
choose things
yeah.
that I knew from
Mhm.
listening to metal bands, and I was like,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
think no one else
But it's like
did that
it's
before
both. I'm
school.
both trying to find what's objectively true, but I kind of
Right.
want to be the best at it and
Yeah.
like find
Yeah.
it before other people. And
I
so
get that.
maybe that almost leads TI to like not be able to find things so objectively because it's kind of obscured by that ego of itself. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's
yeah, yeah,
hmm.
yeah,
Yeah. Like I think
and
of like how Jung himself
mhm,
being like a TI type, how he grew
mhm,
really anxious.
mhm,
That
yeah,
Freud, who also was apparently a kind of TI. He really wanted to implement this sort of a psychoanalytic dogma thing, and Freud, I mean
mhm,
Jung, grew really nervous about that, and eventually, I mean, just being one aspect that led up to their split. Uh,
mhm, yeah,
One thing that I was starting to figure out about feeling is that it's like I sort of think of feeling as being a kind of what I call being function. That it's like
mm,
the feeling is the thing that wants to what be itself as it exists, be the in itself for itself. It
Oh
wants to
yeah.
be something that doesn't need to be explained.
Hmm.
It is the um,
Yeah, definitely.
both the experience and the experienced, uh, or something of that form. Whereas I think
Mm.
thinking tends to be the thing that wants to have some distance uh from feeling, or something like the
Oh,
thing in
definitely.
itself. Uh, like maybe
Yeah,
what
I
you
mean, at
say, like,
least, yeah, at least for me, it's like, I assume this must be true to some extent for you as well, because we're both presumably decider types, right? IPs.
yeah,
So unlike, let's say an ENTP, for me, the TI and the FE are just so diametrically, apart from each other. I can't even think of how I can do both of them at the same time because it's like, my TI is trying to do a science experiment or some kind of
yeah,
logical reasoning. If I start, trying to consider how other people will feel about it, well, okay, but then that's going to influence my results in some direction. It'll make me try to push it in that way, and that's going to take it away from what's actually true. So like I feel like I can't do any feeling while I'm doing
right,
thinking because it will ruin the purity of
right,
it, which I guess I certainly see in FI people too. It's like don't like don't infect my FI with your thinking. Let it be pure. It's kind of what I see from people. So
yeah, yeah. Well,
yeah, yeah,
yeah. I mean, it's interesting. Like, I guess being in my perspective, it's like I've always thought, well, it's like, I guess feeling being a thing about my my character and personality. It's
yeah.
like impossible for me to not think like whatever I'm feeling, I suppose, has some kind of truth to it. And
Mhm.
and it's like, well, I guess I sometimes see even like a similar thing with like Jordan Peterson, because
Oh yeah.
uh, he being someone typed with like the NF very close. It's
Hmm.
like he talks a lot about about the occurrences of feelings, like I guess, especially being a psychologist, seeing people
Hmm.
experiencing all sorts of kinds of anxiety, and learning what precisely to do with those sorts of things. And I think you also see a similar thing in you see this sort of thing
Hmm.
in writers like Sartre and Heidegger.
Yeah.
They write about existential anxieties, the sorts. And it's like they also tend to seem like thinking types. There might be a
Hmm.
which is like a different kind of response that I think a predominantly thinking type has
Hmm.
to the feeling.
Well, certainly I mean, for any demon, like that's certainly true for me, where it's not like thinkers have any less feeling than anyone else. We have
Right,
it. We're
right.
just kind of either try to ignore it or kind of scared of it, or like, what the heck am I supposed to do with this? Because I feel like I'm supposed to just be able to figure out my life in a logical manner, and then it'll all work.
Yeah,
And then at night, some feeling will come up, and I'll be like, well, why is this happening? Everything in my life is fine. Why am I angry? Why am I sad? And so, yeah, that's the trademark like of a demon or inferior function is that
yeah,
is just attitude toward it, right?
yeah. I think for
Yeah.
me, it's like I always experience the limitation of something that I get too
Hmm.
sternly into. And I think that's
Hmm.
for me when the thinking comes in, because to me
Hmm.
thinking is like is a very Promethean sort of act. It wants to be,
Definitely.
yeah, it wants to be freed from something. It wants to liberate and bring knowledge.
Hmm.
uh
Yeah.
and it's like I think of feeling as being sort of a threat to it, in some sense.
Yeah.
Um, and
Do
I
do
think
you
it's
ever do you ever experience it in the other direction? Just like given that your feeling is your savior, that do you ever feel thinking as being a threat to feeling or not really in the same way.
Yeah, I think I overdo it a lot because it does seem like it has been a sort of pattern for me. Uh, because I think it is fundamentally that I do what I like. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of those things tend to be sort of kinds of thinking things, like the
Yeah.
writers I read and the sort of
Hmm.
projects I take on and so on. Uh,
Hmm.
but it is like I can feel quite removed from the feeling, and I think part of it being feminine, uh,
Hmm.
sort of like in the OP sense, uh, meaning that it's what it takes sort of a affectational place, I think. It's not the drive or the force, it's the thing that's affected by things. I think it comes off to me as sort of
Yeah.
like a deeper mechanism, like it's sort of rooted in that way that it is
Hmm.
my sensitivity, I think. Uh,
Hmm.
and it's like, I don't know, maybe if I'm doing a lot of thinking, it can which feels very active to me, by the way. I don't know if that's different
Yeah.
for introverted thinking, but for me,
Hmm.
thinking is like a very active feeling sort of thing. Maybe it being extroverted, I wouldn't know precisely uh, at the moment, but it but it can feel difficult to access the feeling after a while, or
Hmm.
if I'm in like a highly primed thinking state. Uh, well, maybe just because it feels sort of like a force that I'm in. Uh, however I might describe it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, that's certainly like, I mean, even just like listening to you talk the past like 10 minutes or so, is like my thought is like, yeah, I can't like, I don't think I could even talk about my own feelings in that level of complexity, or that I've thought about them consciously to that level. Like, so that's certainly a difference
Yeah,
there. I mean, but as far as the active versus non-active thing, I think it's true to an extent. I mean, probably even more so if you're thinking is both extroverted and masculine as well. But yeah, I mean, for me, like I'm thinking about FE, of course, that's a much more extroverted and active thing. It's like whether it's like either joking with people or just vibing with other people, it's such an external activity. Like, I mean, I think of like couple years ago, I worked at a summer camp as a counselor, which I really was not very good at in most respects. But there was like one part that I loved, which was we do like skits, and that's like would be probably the purest level of my FE coming out is like
right.
playing some crazy character on stage and you know
Yeah.
howling and laughing and this and that. Like that's kind
Yeah.
of how
Kind of like a safer
when I
environment
do,
to do it. Right.
yeah. But like that seems so different from FI. It's like
Right.
that feels very active versus if I'm thinking, it's like okay, it's like I'm doing a math problem and okay, I need the room to be quiet and nobody come in here because I need to focus on this. So that's
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
I guess that because I was sort of thinking maybe it's sort of a like a masculine feminine sort of thing, whether it feels active
that too. Yeah.
or like a passive
Hmm.
effect. But you seem to describe it as like it might be sort
Hmm.
of like the introverted function that's
Yeah, I think the masculine and feminine probably affects the feeling of kind of like intensity of it. I think
right.
like my FE, it doesn't feel like there's that much weight behind it. Like it could be active and making a bunch of faces, but it's kind of airy and not very permanent. Whereas like if I'm, let's say, having an argument in TI, I get like you're almost kind of hot-headed, even though it's technically not a feeling function. I almost get like angry.
Yeah,
So that's like the
I've
masculinity of it,
I've
maybe. Yeah.
certainly had that sort of
Yeah.
thing happen to me once.
Yeah.
Kind of just caught me
Yeah.
out of the blue
Yeah.
almost. Um,
Yeah.
like I have a
Yeah.
distinctive memory
Mm,
of arguing with someone and
mm,
it's like
mm,
feeling like they're not seeing my point. Uh,
mm.
and maybe I might have gotten a little accusal in that sort of
No, yeah.
predicament,
Mm,
but it's, I mean, it's,
mm, mm,
but I guess, yeah, it could be sort of frustrating trying to get a
mm.
point across. Um,
Yeah.
like if,
But it was, yeah. So, I
yeah,
mean, you mentioned, of course, that you feel like you do a lot of thinking and that, you read a lot of philosophy and psychology and things of that nature. How would you say you interact with them? Does it feel very much like you're using TE or are you in TI or is it because like I mean for me, I mean I don't read that kind of thing very much, but if I do, it's like it's very TI and that I'm kind of trying almost to fact check it. Like I'm going through the arguments, okay, is this
yeah,
self-contradictory or not? Does this match up with evidence or not? And it's very clinical in that way. Is that, I mean, how would you describe the way if you're reading Young or whatever, how you evaluate it?
yeah. So I think the thing for me is that I like ideas. I don't
Mhm,
like to settle on things. I enjoy the feeling of exploration,
mhm.
of being able to
Yeah.
discover something, of making connections. It's like to me that's but I guess I have a very raw priming for that sort of thing. Uh,
Mhm.
and so when
I
I
mean, in your interview, I think Kendrick mentioned that of like that could be a product of being play over sleep. Because that's
right,
always kind of trying to expand more than it's trying to narrow down, which I guess is probably the opposite for me if I'm sleep over play, which I think I am. So
yeah,
yeah.
I mean no, for sure. I think I might have had sort of a period in time where began to recognize like sort of having the sleep mechanism might
Hmm.
have actually been a detriment to my interest because it's like well my Promethean thinking it wants to be interested in almost uh
Hmm.
anything that might have the possibility of being useful that's the end as well I think um
Hmm.
but it's like I think internally I do have this sense of it's like I want to have just say like a small group of authors that I really
Hmm.
like and that I read like hyper indulgently. There's but it's like
Hmm.
I felt like I couldn't make that stable enough for it to be a reality.
Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm.
I think the need for exploration might
Hmm.
just be at root just stronger for me. I feel more alive
Hmm.
doing that thing than to just try and be
Hmm.
one particular thing. Um, Another thing for me might just be wanting to have just like multiple different kinds of perspectives, uh,
Hmm.
if not just for comparison, for like for the means of synthesization. Because I mean, if like multiple people are arguing about something, say like just different writers going at each other, or something in philosophy and so on, it's like if there's multiple different perspectives, not being able to agree on one thing, then there's something else I think that's to be said. Uh, like there's something missing in that
Hmm.
argument, and maybe it's like I'm
Yeah.
curious as to what that might be. The thing sort of maybe just outside the box, so to speak.
Hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, would you say that like, if you either in discussion or writing, like you're interacting with ideas in a very like NF way more so than I mean I'm sure you're doing NT as well, but it seems like what you're saying that like you really I mean a big part of it is you really just like the experience of feeling what it feels like to have those ideas swirling
Yeah,
around
I
more
think
so than just yeah more
because
so
I'm
than like
interested in what's
yeah.
meaningful, I think.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
I don't know,
Yeah.
it's like a behavior that's
Mm.
meaningful to me, I think. Uh,
Hmm.
there's
Yeah. I mean, of
having
course, and then meaning is purely an F thing, right? That's something that no amount of
yeah,
thinking can give you meaning. It's from
yeah.
my view,
I mean,
right?
I would be really interested in sort of um what like divesting towards why why feeling does tend to be conceived as like say being the meaning function. Uh,
Hmm. Well,
well,
I
I
think
guess yeah,
as I understand it, it's like, the in the most concrete form, like, T and F are the they're judging and deciding functions because those are
right,
how we make decisions, right? And the two kinds of decisions you can make are sort of, truth judgments, whether something is, true or false, and value judgments, which is whether something is good or bad or valuable or not. And so, and the latter is the domain of feeling. So in that sense, it's not just specifically emotion, but it's like importance. Like, TI or TE can give
right,
you a goal. It can tell you what is true in the world so that you can most efficiently achieve that goal.
right.
But TI can't tell you what is important. That's kind of purely subjective, and you need to kind of feel that for yourself. So, as I understand, I mean that meaning is kind of, if anything, the what is what what feeling is most about. Like, it's determining importance, and that's like, for example, why I think thinkers will stereotypically get into stupid arguments that don't matter, because if you're missing the feeling, you're missing that mechanism that tells you whether something is important or not, right? My TI just solves problems. It doesn't know
Right.
which ones to solve or not, so it just kind of does all of them. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I guess I might recognize that sort of thing in like what like certain types of like genres of reading where I
Mhm.
see people who get into like these really niche and particular problems, and I
Mhm.
almost
Mhm.
admire it in a sort of way. Um,
Mhm.
like maybe I also see it as like a introverted sensing thing. Um,
Mhm.
in my view, just like being able to hinge on a really
Mhm.
particular thing and just kind of go at it. Um, and
Mhm.
it makes me anxious, but it's like what if you want a really keen sense of knowledge about something, it's like that's the way to do it, I think.
Mhm.
Uh, although I seem to exist
Yeah,
in
it
sort
does
of
feel like, I mean, like, if
compromise.
yeah,
Right.
it does feel like if I'm learning about something or even arguing about something, it almost always feels like whatever I'm talking or reading about is the most important thing in the world in that moment, right? Because generally I'm not using my F very much. So if I'm taking a linguistics class, it
Yeah.
almost feels like linguistics is the only thing that matters in the universe, and I'm engrossed in that way. And then a month later, I'm like, that wasn't really that important, was it? But I kind of didn't really have that mechanism, so it just yeah, just the TI just zeroes in on whatever you put in front of it, I think.
Yeah.
Whereas if you have F, the F is telling you, okay, care about this, don't care about that, right?
Mhm. Yeah, so well, the recording says we have about 9 minutes left.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
I guess maybe we
Yeah, we
could
can always,
just
I mean,
go on and try and restart it, or
yeah,
um,
we can do that.
try to I don't know, bring it to a point or something, just whatever. Um, because I have a feeling it might
Mhm.
not let us. I don't know if you know more about the system, uh, but like in case it doesn't let us get
Yeah,
back to
you can start a new one for sure. Yeah,
okay.
just restart a meeting. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, what
if
would
it
you
doesn't, then I can start one. Hmm.
that's it. So you would like to go on?
Yeah, I mean, as long as until we're both happy with it, I guess. But
Yeah,
yeah, I mean,
I'm sure I could certainly probably keep adding a few things. Um,
mhm.
yeah, Well, one thing that's sort of curious to me at the moment is because I noticed there is a certain sense that like uh and this is sort of like an interpretive thing that like the order of type seems to be something that could be kind of arbitrary. And it's like my reason for saying that is I think the what like wherever you place the first function in a type can be totally relative to the kind of purpose, the usage that you're seeking out of formulating some kind of type. Uh, maybe I could do a better example at
Oh,
uh
yeah, maybe.
trying to come up with examples. So what I mean for that. Uh, but it's like, and I was just thinking like, well, there's certainly like an order in the way that we do things. And it's
Yeah.
like maybe my curiosity would be like, how do you like maybe in the sense of pragmatism, how would you come up with like the what should be or what is like the best way of having a beginning to a type and
Uh, a beginning to the type you mean in what sense? Like
yeah, like
literally how a person starts or what?
well it's like we like in OP you have the stronger functions being like the masculine ones. I think those can
Hmm.
often seem like the more prominent components of a type, but the way that I understand it is that there's sort of like an order to it. There's like the thing that's the most natural and like the easiest passive sort of thing. Like in my case, that would be the introverted feeling in the NE. Uh,
Hmm. Hmm.
like it feels like I can just like sit around and just read or uh consume things just uh
Hmm.
even into like the deepest darkest depths of sleep deprivation. um but it's like the kinds of responses I get
Hmm.
out of people are like that I'm like a sort of cold thinking type. uh
Hmm.
and it's like I recognize that that seems to be like the stronger thing about me, but it's like I'm also willing to respect that there's like sort of an order in the way in which I seem to do things. Like the sleep certainly comes after like
Hmm.
like these bursts of extroversion and thinking. Uh,
Hmm.
but then I go back to what's most natural to me, and that's just exploring things, um, and
Yeah.
maybe just like seeing what I like. Uh, but
Yeah, I
that
think it does. I think
yeah
the chronology I think does probably tend to follow the order in terms of saviors, so as far as the animals are concerned. I mean,
right
that's how you describe it, and I think it's just the same, in reverse for me that the would between like sleep and play, I would default to spending more time kind of either, by myself or not spending a lot of energy. Then I get this feeling of like, oh shoot, I'm like either falling behind or I'm getting agitated because I've been at home for so long, and then it'll
yeah
kind of burst out, and that's when the play will happen. So it's yeah,
uh-huh
makes sense in that way. Yeah.
yeah yeah it's like maybe
Mhm.
the thing that I would add
This,
to was that in Jung's typology, he seems to type based on the like whatever function is most prominent, the one that seems to leave the most gaps.
mhm,
Uh, and it's like in the
mhm,
OP sense, that doesn't seem to always be the what like the front and back end functions.
mhm.
Uh,
Yeah, well,
I think
the way they describe it is, I think it's technically about the when they mean savior and demon, it's I think Most
Right.
concretely, it's the person's attitude toward that function. That's why they use those terms. It's like the thing that makes me savior TI is
Right.
that I see TI generally as a a solution to problems, and I see FE as kind of a problem or something scary. So
Right.
that the fundamental thing is attitude toward it, which is what leads to the fact that you generally will probably use the savior one a lot more than the other one.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. I mean, I
yeah,
suppose.
that's how I get understand it at least.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, well, yeah. I mean, well, quite possibly that could be. It's like to me, my theory would be like, what's the most useful way of defining these sorts of things? Uh, and it's maybe sort of strange to me because it's like to me the most useful way I think of doing something is the thing that's most gratifying to the feeling, which I think is like a sense about one's world, like the way that it should be in some sense.
Mhm.
Uh, like the thing that I think the thinking is always attempting to
Mhm.
explain. Um, I mean, very very well that manner of ordering it could very well make sense. And be the most useful way of utilizing the
Mhm.
functions.
Yeah. There's, and I guess there's also the responsibility aspect that you talk about is like, yeah, usually your savior is something that if there's something there that needs to be taken care of, you kind of you have such a biological need to do that you do it. Like if for somebody like I know some people who are feeling first, if something feels off or they're not comfortable with something, like they have to pay respect to that feeling. They can't just push it aside. They have
Right.
to either soothe or meet that emotional need. Whereas I sometimes don't, where I'll just kind of push that aside. And
Right.
on the flip side, like if I'm having a conversation and there's someone makes a factual error or something like that,
Mhm.
it's like I can't cannot let it go. I have to stop it and stop the conversation and correct that before we can move on. So like the TI has to be quote unquote taken care of before everything else.
Right.
Your brain kind of
Right.
makes that rule for you.
Yeah, it's like well, it says
Yeah.
we have less than a minute.
Mhm.
But I'll try to
Yeah.
restart it after this.
Let's just get on, and see where it goes after that, right? I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah,
Yeah, we can keep going. Okay. I will leave and then I'll come back on. See you in a
yeah,
sec.
sure. See ya.